All right, well, welcome everyone to the Highway 2 169 Grand Rapids and La Prairie Corridor and Safety Study. This is our second open house meeting. So the goal of the open house is to provide an opportunity for you all to learn about the study if this is the first time you're seeing it, but also to ask questions and provide input on the alternatives that are under consideration. We'll talk a little bit more in a bit about where we're at in the study, but we are definitely interested in your input. So we're going to walk through a brief presentation to just provide a review of what we're doing and then walk through our different alternatives and the pros and cons of those. The informational boards, this recorded presentation, and layouts of the different corridor alternatives will be available on the project website. So if you want to get in and look and pan around and get into some more details, feel free to do that. And we also are asking for your input. We have a survey asking some questions about the alternatives to see what you think. So just a little bit of an overview of this study. MnDOT has partnered with the city of Grand Rapids and La Prairie and is studying the future of Highway 2 and Highway 169, which is shown in the orange color on the map on the screen. This study is looking at opportunities to address some needs in these corridors, specifically safety, traffic flow or mobility, and trying to address the needs for all corridor users, whether that's vehicles, freight, people walking or biking, and other community goals for development, redevelopment, and economic considerations. There is currently no funding for future improvements on this corridor programmed yet. However, MnDOT is aware that there is aging infrastructure and will use the outcomes of this study to influence future projects along the corridor. Our timeline, we have been working on this study since August of 2024 and working through a series of investigations to understand what are the existing needs and issues along the corridor. We did some public engagement in that first phase to understand corridors, user perspectives on that. And now we've been working since November on the alternative development and evaluation phase. So what are the various improvement alternatives that we should consider and how do they compare to addressing the needs and to one another? And then we'll finish up our study by July of this year, working on final recommendations to leave this in a good spot, again, where it can help inform future transportation projects. Just a little bit of our process in terms of engagement. In our first phase back in the fall of last year, we worked through with the public at an open house, some key focus group meetings with businesses, freight interests, economic groups, and worked with the various cities to get their input on issues and needs. We also held a pop-up event and did some online engagement. And we had great participation. We had over 200 surveys completed, and between about 50 people attended our various engagement events. So we are now in what we call phase 2, where we are doing this open house, both online and in person. And we are again repeating some of our focus groups and agency coordination, and we'll keep our survey open online as well. And then when we get to our final recommendation phase here in the spring and summer, we will repeat these engagement events again, just trying to capture input from a variety of corridor users and community interest groups. This is a summary of our corridor needs. We have 3 main categories here that we've identified through our work and our earlier public engagement. Those were safety, mobility, and local connectivity and accessibility. We know that in terms of safety, the existing corridor experiences a lot of crashes, especially along Highway 169 between the Mississippi River and the west junction of Highway 2 and 169. There are multiple intersections in the corridors that also experience crash rates above what we would normally expect for those type of locations. And there were several intersections that were flagged in the previous study by MnDOT to identify high-risk locations. For mobility, there is significant congestion along, again, that northbound Highway 169 and along Highway 38 as it approaches the corridor. We also heard from the public during our first phase of engagement that, the far majority, I think it was 90% of people who completed our survey noted that they are concerned about traffic flow along these corridors. And from a local connectivity and accessibility standpoint, we know and we heard from the public that Highway 2 and 169 are difficult for pedestrian and bicyclists to cross due to the number of lanes and the distance and high traffic volumes. We also know that, thinking about access and how do these corridors connect to businesses and neighborhoods is important. So as we look to address these challenges, we'll be keeping an eye on maintaining those connectivity. And then on our next slide here, just talk about some of the key themes. A lot of similar comments here from my previous slide on corridor issues and need. But what we heard, loud and clear from the public in phase 1 was overall traffic flow issues are a major concern. Congestion, long backups, ineffective signal coordination from the various signals along these corridors. We also heard about pedestrian and biking safety and comfort. Again, very wide, uncomfortable to cross these corridors. And traffic flow improvements and safety improvements are the two main things that people would like to see improved along these corridors as a whole.
So in order to get to the range of alternatives that I will discuss shortly, we first looked at access along the entire corridor to see what opportunities there are for modifying access in order to meet other goals like pedestrian crossings and smoother traffic flow. So the main takeaways from this initial analysis was that there are a lot of accesses along the corridor, as highlighted on this slide. We also found that some of the traffic signals on the corridor today are not justified. Another takeaway would be that throughout the downtown area and just neighborhood access and circulation in general is important to maintain throughout the corridor and with alternatives being considered. And we need to think about this network for cars, trucks, as well as pedestrians and cyclists. Additionally, knowing that there is plans for redevelopment on the west side of Highway Corridor 2, we want to make sure that anything that we're showing allows for future advancement of that redevelopment. So building on the needs identified in our technical analysis and in the public input that we received, we both looked at individual intersection needs and how to package these needs into corridor considerations. So these are the types of questions that we started with to develop the improvement alternatives, which are shown online. So looking at intersection considerations, we considered where are the traffic signals along the corridor needed, what type of traffic control is best suited for each intersection. We looked at if there are innovative intersection designs that could address the needs that we discussed previously, and also how can we improve pedestrian and bicycle crossings at each intersection. From a corridor perspective, we analyzed how many lanes are needed in order to serve existing and projected future traffic volumes, how traffic patterns or network changes could address those needs, and also how pedestrians and bicyclists are able to move along and across the corridor. We did end up dismissing a few alternatives at this point. We have more information online about the 3 alternatives, but I'll give a brief overview on each of these. So first was rerouting of Highway 2. This was dismissed as most traffic was found to actually stop in town, and therefore a bypass of Highway 2 throughout the Grand Rapids, La Prairie area would be minimally used. We also considered an innovative intersection design known as a displaced left turn intersection at the West Junction intersection of Highway 2 and Highway 169, where we are seeing the most congestion today. This was considered, but ultimately dismissed as the design would be too impactful to nearby properties. We also dismissed the option of considering a 5-lane to a 3-lane reduction along Highway 169 south of the West Junction intersection. So this is the north-south portion of Highway 169 between that West Junction intersection with Highway 2 and the Mississippi River. This was dismissed as it was found that increasing traffic queuing and delay would be found with this reduction, which is where we see congestion today. So we did not want to make a condition that's already bad out there even worse. This led us to 3 overall corridor alternatives. So the first being a 5-lane concept. The 5-lane concept really retains the existing number of lanes that are out there today with spot improvements in order to minimize traffic congestion and improve pedestrian crossings. The trade-offs with the 5-lane concept are that there's really no safety improvements where existing conditions are retained. There is no reduction in crossing distance for pedestrians as they would still have to cross the 5 lanes as they do today. And pedestrian improvements would only be at the locations where we have restricted access proposed. So the majority of the corridor sees no overall improvement. Another trade-off would be that where we have potential access restrictions, vehicle rerouting would be necessary. And depending on the intersection improvements that are recommended, there could be some right-of-way acquisition needed. The 3-lane concept reduces the number of travel lanes along the corridor in order to calm traffic, make driving smoother, and create safer crossings for pedestrians. This would add space for better sidewalks and landscaping on the corridor. So the 3-lane concept would have 1 through lane in each direction and a center turn lane. The existing and forecasted traffic volumes were found to fall below the planning level capacity of a 3-lane roadway, except along Highway 2 between Highway 38 and Highway 169 at that West Junction intersection. So if you notice on the layout for this concept 3 option, between that segment where we fall above the capacity of a 3-lane, you'll notice that there are 2 westbound through lanes in order to handle the added volume for that portion of the roadway. Some trade-offs for the 3-lane concept include that some vehicle rerouting will be needed with access restrictions at spot locations. And we could see some increases in travel time throughout the corridor during peak travel times with the reduction of lanes. Additionally, with this concept, there would be some right-of-way acquisition potentially needed depending on the intersection improvements that are recommended. And the third alternative that we're showing is a one-way pair concept. The one-way pair concept would convert Highway 2 to a one-way eastbound and 5th Street to a one-way westbound between Northwest 10th Avenue and Northeast 3rd Avenue, as shown on the screen. This concept also considers converting the north-south portion of Highway 169 to a one-way northbound between 2nd Street and 5th Street and Northwest 1st Avenue to a one-way southbound. The benefits of this one-way concept are that they would reduce the number of lanes in order to create safer and shorter crossings for pedestrians and add space for sidewalks and landscaping. This concept would also retain the existing traffic capacity with 2 lanes in each direction. Another benefit is that we would see reduced congestion for motorists and freight with this capacity retained along the corridor, and increased safety for pedestrians and motorists with simplified intersections where the one-way routes are proposed. The trade-offs with this option are that we would see increased traffic along 5th Street, more vehicle rerouting would be needed with the one-way changes, and there would be some loss of parking. Additionally, changes to the traffic flow could be confusing at first, and with this option, right-of-way acquisition is needed in order to accommodate the proposed design. In addition to corridor-wide concepts, intersection control changes were also considered. Roundabouts and traffic signals are being considered for the higher volume intersections on the corridor. Roundabouts are able to provide traffic calming, improve pedestrian crossings, and improve the safety for motorists and pedestrians. However, they would require increased right-of-way, and there are concerns with the nearby railroad crossing so close to a roundabout. Retaining signals are being considered as they would require no or minimal right-of-way acquisition, and railroad preemption is possible, which allows mainline traffic to continue to flow when a train is passing through and the side streets are blocked. However, retaining a traffic signal offers no or minimal safety improvement from the existing condition. For the lower volume intersections, full access side street stop controlled and reduced access intersections such as right in, right out, or 3/4 accesses are being considered. These intersections provide free flow condition for the mainline traffic and require no or minimal right-of-way acquisition needed. Restricted accesses are safer and provide a median refuge, improving pedestrian crossings, but the trade-off is that some of those movements that are prohibited would need to reroute to another intersection. Also along the corridor, access management was considered. We looked at the driveways that are out there today and locations where a second access to a property is available on a minor roadway was identified for potential closure. Locations where there are several nearby accesses but no access on a minor roadway were identified for potential consolidation. We did this exercise to start the conversation with property owners. Nothing here is set in stone, but we are interested in your feedback on the proposed access changes and how they would work or would not work for your property's needs.
All right, well, we know we provided you with a lot of information here in this recording. And as I mentioned, we do have the full layouts and informational boards available on the website for your review. We are most interested in your feedback. We have a survey where you can complete your input. And we're really trying to get at, what elements do you feel would function well or wouldn't function well for your use, at intersections, along the corridor, with our various alternatives. So our survey will direct those questions specifically and allow you to provide any other type of feedback that you think we should know at this point. There is a QR code on the screen here. We can get access to the website and the survey. It also has some contact information if you would rather make a phone call or send an email to project staff. We are asking that the surveys be completed by March 14th. Again, this is the website, the QR code, and this is where to find the most up-to-date information about the study. Your input will help guide how we further evaluate these alternatives and make recommendations to guide future projects. And it's okay if you like more than one alternative. We are really trying to get your input on, how these work for you or don't. And we will take that into consideration moving forward. Here is the project contacts that I mentioned previously and are also on the website. Alex Pretz is the project manager for MnDOT and Pippi is the engagement coordinator. And either of those emails or phone numbers can be used to make contact with them.
All right, well, thanks, Angie, for going through that for our study project. And I also want to bring up on this video here about a project that we have that's going to be starting this summer. This summer, we have a project in La Prairie, Grand Rapids area on Highway 2 that is going down from the east intersection of Highway 2 and 169 down to the Gun Road. That is a project is scheduled to be a mill and overlay. The project benefits are to improve the quality of the ride out there, extend the useful life of the highway, upgrade some pedestrian facilities in the area, and do some intersection improvements at La Prairie Avenue and Gun Road. Our overall scope of the project, as I mentioned, we're milling and overlaying the driving lanes. We are doing some paving on select areas of the shoulders and then fog sealing the rest of the shoulders that are in there. We're making improvements to all the existing sidewalks that are out there to make them up to ADA compliant standards. We are going to be adding a westbound right turn lane pavement from La Prairie Avenue to the beginning of the sidewalk at the DNR building. That area that's out there now will be reallocated to become a paved shoulder to help get us a little more room for the other infrastructure that we have out there. We're going to improve the pedestrian crossing at La Prairie Avenue. We're going to construct a rectangular rapid flashing beacon system. So one of the systems where you can push the button and the lights will flash as you go to cross. It's not the overhead one, but the ones that are more on the ground there. And we'll have some curb bump outs there as well to help minimize the crossing distance for any folks that are traveling there. We're also going to construct a new right turn lanes at the Dakota Supply Group in Prairie River Wayside Rest area. We're constructing new intersection lighting at La Prairie Avenue and Gun Road. We're constructing left turn lanes at the Gun Road and Jess Harry Road intersection, and we're also realigning the Jess Harry Road so that way it squares up into the intersection instead of coming in at a skewed angle right now. We're also looking at repairing select culverts and storm sewers throughout the project limits. As far as what how we're going to deliver the project, it's our typical design, bid, and then build on there. We have not bid out the project yet. That is scheduled to happen here on May 16th. Right now, we have an estimated construction cost of $3.6 million to do the project. And then a little bit into the stage and traffic control. So we're anticipating that the construction will be starting in July and go through October of 2025. The project is anticipated to be done under traffic. So what that means is that traffic will still be able to flow on Highway 2, but there might be time when there is lane closures. Those lane closures will probably be facilitated with flaggers or another method that the contractor may choose to go with on there. We're also anticipating that there's going to be some times when between when we mill the bituminous and actually pave back the new bituminous in, that there'll be some milled surfaces out there that traffic will be driving on, but that'll be for a short time period. During construction, all access to the residential and business accesses along the corridor will be maintained. And expect, your typical construction where you're going to have some reduced speeds in the work zones and some potential for traffic delays as there's flagging operations or other operations going on in the area. And for further information, you can visit our website. We have a project website for that as well. That's the best area to get any updates, especially as the project gets closer to bidding and construction. If there are direct questions, those questions can go to the project manager for that project, who is Randy Costley, and his contact information is below.